Can you really land a high-ticket sales job with no previous experience? That was the question I kept asking myself before I joined Her Last Call Academy by Alexis Mai. I'd seen the success stories, watched the testimonials, and honestly, I wasn't completely convinced. I remember thinking, is this actually going to work for me? Or is it just another course making big promises? So instead of wondering, I decided to give it a real chance and see for myself. Looking back now, a lot has changed. And surprisingly, the biggest transformation wasn't the money. It was the confidence I built along the way. But I'll come back to that in just a minute. If you'd like to learn more about the Academy, you'll find the link in the description below. The first big win came sooner than I expected. Just 4 weeks after joining the Academy, I landed my first high-ticket sales role. After completing the training modules and practicing what I was learning, I started checking the job board almost every day. Eventually, I found a remote closing opportunity that felt like a perfect fit. I applied, used the interview techniques I'd learned inside the Academy, and a few days later, I got the offer. I still remember closing my laptop after that Zoom interview and just sitting there for a second. I couldn't stop smiling. For the first time, it felt like I was finally moving toward the career I'd been hoping for. One thing I will say is that the best opportunities don't stay available for long, so checking the job board consistently really helps. But getting the job wasn't the biggest change. The biggest change was how much more confident I became. Before joining, sales calls honestly made me nervous. I'd overthink everything. What if I said the wrong thing? What if I couldn't answer an objection? What if I wasn't good enough? What helped me more than anything were the real sales call recordings inside the Academy. I'd watch them almost every evening, paying attention to how experienced women guided conversations, built trust, and handled objections so naturally. Over time, something clicked. I stopped worrying about sounding perfect and started focusing on truly helping the person on the other side of the call. That shift completely changed the way I approached sales conversations. Another milestone that meant a lot to me was earning my certification. Receiving my certification wasn't just about getting another certificate. It gave me the confidence to finally update my LinkedIn profile and introduce myself as a remote closer without second-guessing myself. For the first time, I felt like I had something solid to back up my skills. In fact, one prospect even told me that seeing my certification encouraged them to book a discovery call with me. It was a small moment, but it reminded me how important credibility can be when you're starting out. One thing I completely underestimated was the community. When I first joined Her Last Call Academy, my only goal was to become a better remote closer. I honestly didn't think much about the community inside the Academy, but that changed very quickly. Being surrounded by so many ambitious women who were working toward the same goal made a huge difference. Everyone was willing to share interview experiences, sales tips, and lessons from real client conversations, not just theory from a course. Whenever I got stuck or had a question, there was almost always another woman who had already been through the same situation and was happy to help. That support kept me motivated and reminded me that I wasn't building this career alone. Of course, like any online community, weekends were usually a little quieter. But during the week, it became one of my favorite places to learn, ask questions, and keep improving. Then came the moment that made everything feel real. About 3 months after joining the Academy, I closed my very first $3,000 high-ticket deal. I wasn't sitting in a fancy office. It was just me, my laptop, and the skills I had spent weeks building. Instead of worrying about saying the perfect thing, I focused on understanding my clients' needs, asking better questions, and following the sales framework I had practiced inside the Academy. When my client said yes, I just sat there for a few seconds with the biggest smile on my face. It wasn't only about earning my first commission. It was proof that all the time I had invested in learning and practicing was finally paying off. That single conversation completely changed the way I looked at sales and the confidence I had in myself. So, was her last call academy worth it? For me, absolutely. Not because it promised overnight success, but because it gave me the structure, guidance, and opportunities I needed to develop real skills and apply them in real sales conversations. Looking back, the biggest transformation wasn't just getting a job or closing my first deal. It was becoming someone who could confidently lead sales conversations, handle objections, and truly believe in herself. If you're serious about building a career in high-ticket sales and you're willing to put in the work, I definitely think it's worth taking a closer look. If you'd like to learn more, you'll find the link in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope sharing my experience helped you make a more informed decision. I'll see you in the next video.